Welcome everyone to Dan Snow's History. It's Halloween, and to celebrate, we are delving into the darker side of history. Last year, we explored the Celtic origins of Halloween and the festival of Samhain. This year, we're going to go even deeper to explore Irish funerary traditions and mythology, including the over 1,000-year-old tradition of keening. That was a mourning ritual which was considered so naughty, so transgressive, that both the British government and the Catholic Church tried to stamp it out completely, enforcing severe punishments for those who practiced the ceremony. From the mysterious corpse roads to the curse of hungry grass, I'm joining historians Dr. Anthony Delaney and Dr. Maddy Pelling to learn more. Let's get into it.
Okay, so let's begin with the obvious. Keening. Anthony, what is it?
Embarrassingly, I didn't even. You hear the expression? I didn't know it was actually a thing.
Yeah, no, it really was a thing. Not in my lifetime. I don't actually. I've been to quite the few wakes, but I've never seen this in person. And actually, it must be a really dramatic thing to see. But let's kind of talk about some of the ins and outs of it. So we have the word comes from egcuina or quincha, which means to cry. So it's all about crying, lamenting. And you might think that it's a free-form thing that's happening just on the spot, that they're improvising. But actually, this is a very formalized performance. And you're paying women to come and to sit beside the dead body or to follow the dead body down the road as it's going to the burial, and to wail and to cry and to lament and to sometimes celebrate. But also, if you've maybe done a few dodgy things, they'll bring that up as well as part of expunging those experiences. And it's really ancient. You're talking about like 8th century for this. So it's an old tradition. Kind of dies out by the 1940s, they think, on the Aran Islands is the last kind of place at the west of Ireland. So it really is like a traditional mourning ritual.
So, okay, I have a lot of questions.
Go
but
on.
First of all, you're telling me that if you've done something a bit dodgy or shit in your life, that the keening women will bring that up?
It can be. It's part of the. It can be part of the lament, and there are different forms to that, where they can say, oh, forgive him. It's almost like an appeal to say, forgive him for being so cruel that one time. But generally, they will try and keep it like a little bit more of a, oh, we're going to miss you kind of a thing.
I'm already feeling slightly anxious thinking of like all the bad things
that they would say about you.
Come up. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're. I've heard recordings.
I was going to say that we can hear this, can we?
Yeah. You can go on YouTube and you can find some recordings from the early 20th century, and they are haunting. And you talk about, like, I don't know if you do, but one talks about the banshee. There's a banshee quality, and it's only women, by the way. So it's only women that are taking part in this.
Well, this was going to be my second question, because we're all about equality here. Why is it only women?
I think it might link into that banshee link where it's women lamenting, it's crying. Talk about like the performance of gender. It's more acceptable that the women are absolutely losing their shit beside the grave than it is that men are doing it. So I think it feeds into that, and then the banshee stories as well.
It's weird that the British government and the Church hated this so much.
Yeah.
Is it just 'cause it's a bit pagan?
Yeah, it's because it's pagan, it's because it's women, and it's because they're getting paid for it.
Okay.
Which is interesting, right? Because certainly in modern Ireland or 80s, 90s Ireland, the priests are also getting paid by the family to perform the funeral rites and to do the burial and to all that kind of thing.
But they're dudes, man.
But it's a different set. Clearly, they want all the money. Yeah. So they do have this thing where they're trying to rid the kind of folklore. Again, look, it's all about control, isn't it? That's what it comes down to. It's like, we can't have this heathenistic pagan ritual going on when we're trying to civilize this. And that comes from the Catholic Church as well.
The budget is being stretched because you're now paying for the priest.
Yeah, there's less money.
Which is an issue.
Yeah.
It's a big topic. But there's something, isn't there, about Western civilization and like the physicality and control and sensuousness. Like I've been raised, choirs stood, you go to the coronation, everyone is like bolt upright, stiff upper lip. And there's something that's our Western version of modernity is so different. I was watching the Women's Rugby World Cup the other day, and the Pacific Islanders broke out into this incredible dance of of fraternity or sisterhood and celebration, and at the end of their World Cup experience. And I just thought, what's wrong? Like, why did we elide? Is it something that we came to see that as sort of savagery, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I think it's to do with the physicality of it as well in some ways. It's like being scared of overt sexuality as well.
It's almost like overt emotion is too much. It's and the unpredictability that can come from within that emotion. Like, what happens if this community is literally wailing
Getting a bit
the
fizzy.
loss? Yeah. Like, what are the things that can occur once that begins?
Do you think it's to do with empire as well, and that idea of control? Thinking, obviously, in this case, about the British Empire, but thinking about like the Romans as well. That idea of like control, discipline, everything is ordered. And with the Romans, they have these shows of chaos and emotion, but they're very controlled. They happen within sort of designated public spaces or designated holidays, and you can go and get absolutely pissed on this mountain at this point, or you can hack someone to death in the arena, but the rest of the time you have to live by the rules of society. And I think the British Empire is like that, certainly in the 18th and 19th century in Ireland, and maybe that's the Irish then, and that kind of pagan aspect is seen as you say, Dan, as savage and as uncivilized at the time.
Because do you remember the movie The Northman?
Yes.
Which
was
great movie.
Which is a great movie. And it's been received differently in some different constituencies. But one of the big thing about that movie was they wanted to show white Europeans giving themselves over to wildness.
Yeah.
In those hallucinogenic scenes around the fire. The way that they see that they wanted to present. I read about the filmmakers. They want to present white Europeans as capable of those kind of activities and those ways of as other places around the world, and it really made me think of that. And there's something about the journey we've been on, which is, as you say, Roman legion, straitjacket, everyone's dressed the same. There's lists. Civilization appears in the West about sort of, I don't know, putting us, almost literally binding us physically, I think, and intellectually.
I suppose as well with the keening, there's a kind of, you're saying there, Dan, about the kind of hallucinogenic aspects in that film, and I'm thinking in that film as well, there's a scene in a burial mound, isn't there, where someone falls into a burial mound to go, they dig in to get a sword or something, and then they have to. There's sort of two versions of it where someone is just buried and dead in there, but then there's another scene where they're alive and they have to fight them for the sword. And there's something about mourning and being close to death and dead bodies, where in this context with the keening, it's transgressive, it's almost transformative. It's a spiritual exercise that bridges that gap between life and death, and that kind of hysteria that is sort of brought up, that bubbles up, is almost hallucinogenic. It has the same kind of effect on the people doing it and the people around them. And I just wonder if that is an issue as well. In Britain, certainly in England, we have this really sanitized version of death. And we're going to talk about the wake in Ireland. We don't have that here generally. We have somebody dies, they go off to the morgue, and then
you put a suit on.
Yes, exactly.
You have to put a suit on and make small talk. When what you want to do is scream.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the one thing I suppose that to highlight is that this is not necessarily this unbridled thing, right? There actually is form and purpose to it as well, and it is grief as an art form. And I just want to read you here some of the...
But I guess the British authorities aren't seeing that.
Oh, they don't understand what they're saying.
No, but there's a I don't know if sophistication right, but there's a complexity to this.
Yes, absolutely. And I think no, sophistication probably is the right thing. But obviously, especially in the 19th century, and I have an example here from the 18th century, just the very end. This is in Irish, this is in the Gaelic language, and so they're not even understanding, the planters are not even understanding what's happening in this. So this is from 1793.
And this is the song.
This is a keen. Okay. So there is a melody to it, but it's very free form, and it will change depending on what's happening. And you will now
be singing.
And I will not be doing it, but I'll read it to you, and I'll give you some of it in Irish just so you can get an idea. So this was, and actually it's interesting that we're talking about this, the idea of the Protestant ascendancy in Ireland. This was a song that was a keen that was by Eileen O'Connell, 1793, and it was for her dead husband who was shot for refusing to undersell his horse to a Protestant. Oh, wow. And so what the Irish had to do was sell horses for way way below the native Irish, for way below their market value, and he didn't, and so he was killed. And this is what she laments. Again, I won't do the keen, but I'll give you some of the Irish, and then I'll give you the translation. It says, "Mo rá tú godangan is Iri suas a shasav is tarlum féin a walya go quirfin marta laga go nelfum cusher farsing go meg a gwyn ceol a spraga go corig ditcha laba fui varlini giala fui culancha braha braca an vín fig asset alice in inid an fuchta a glaskes. My own beloved dear, now get up on your feet and come on home with me, and we will slaughter beef and we'll organise a feast and we'll have music playing and I'll make you a bed with clean white sheets with coloured patchwork quilts to make you sweat with heat instead of this awful cold." So she's really...
Amazing.
Talking about she's going to be missing this person from the mundanity of everyday life, but it's this appeal, isn't it? It's something so earthy and so forlorn that she has to lament it into the world.
And it's transcendent again, right? She's asking this corpse to get up and come home with her and slaughter the beef, and she's made the bed and it's all full of white sheets. It's all beautiful. She's like,
haunt me.
Don't be dead. Yeah, essentially, like, come back with me in whatever form. It's wow. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, and they could vary from coffin side to coffin side. Obviously, this is very particular to that. So there is this sense of improvisation that can go on to as well. You have to think of it in terms of the Irish music tradition, which again was very not necessarily written down, but was passed on orally. And this is feeding into that same tradition. The melodies can change, the wail can change, but there is always a crying element. So you get that's a little bit more structured, and then you get the more free form, which is the cry to the gods, essentially, which is, bring down this earth because I am suffering so much and we are suffering so much. But it's also performative. They're being paid in certain aspects to do this.
I'm just thinking, we in our culture, we pay people to represent us legally. I mean, it's funny what you're. Why are these people not allowed to be paid? Everyone else allowed to be paid for everything else.
There's death doulas now.
Yeah.
And it's actually a part of that. It's helping with the grieving process in many ways.
You bring death doulas up every episode.
I love a death doula.
Wants to be a death doula
I could see myself as a death doula. I could do it.
You could definitely do it.
And I have been with people, because again, we're talking about this Irish thing about death. I have been with people, one person, when they have died. And there's something it's such a privilege to be with somebody when they're dying. And I just think we sanitize that. We're talking about it. We sanitize that process a little bit less in Ireland, and it's much, much quicker than it is here. But it comes from this. It comes from this proximity to death, where people are around a body and taking care of that body themselves to as much as they can in this day and age.
Yeah, but it's funny. We keep talking about, they're being paid as if that makes less authentic. But organists are paid today in funerals, and they move the audience to tears. There are certain choirs at weddings. That shouldn't be in any way. That shouldn't take away from the power and the immediacy of what they're delivering.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, organists are paid. Other people are paid in this process. Priests are paid. Yeah. So it's this is a legit. To pay people around death is perfectly legitimate, but to pay women who are rural, relatively poor, who are women in the context of, say, the 18th, 19th century, you're giving this, and to also put them in such close proximity to really important life stage as well. That's not something that you want to hand over too easily, because there's control in that, there's power in that, there's influence in that.
Yeah, I mean, this idea of the women versus the priests, I think, is really interesting, because you have the women, in some cases, in the example you've just given us, writing their own keening lyrics. Would you call them lyrics?
Yeah.
The words of the lament. And so, in that case, in the one that we heard, she's calling for the corpse to rise from the dead. How does that sit with the priest, who's then saying, this is what's happening to the soul, this is what's happening now, I'm explaining to you all who don't understand it, I have the power to explain this is what's going on.
It's also going to rise to the dead, but in a completely different way.
Exactly.
There is a rising, but it's not like this.
It's completely, it's not the same.
Yeah, well, it's that pagan thing, isn't it? And actually, the church in Ireland really struggles with this over centuries, where it's going, there is too many talks of fairies and ghosts and banshees. This is not.
Stop it.
And as a result, they are very draconian in Ireland to such an extent that even in the 20th century, the church in Rome is saying, lads, calm down. That's too much. You're being too much. Like that filters into Ireland from Rome, where they're going, this is, even we're not happy with this. So they really are trying to stamp that out, but it hasn't worked. And then, we talk about when keening kind of ends in the 20th century at the very beginning, but by the 1940s, there's this Gaelic revival going on again, and we see Gaelic revivals all the time. There's one happening in Ireland right now, like the Irish language is really flourishing in Ireland again. And this idea of keening comes back, and the celebration and an acknowledgement of what that was comes back in the 1940s as well.
Have we got keening now, today? Is that part of the revival?
I've never seen, I've been to my fair share of wakes, and I've never, if I walked into that and I saw that happening, I think I'd be fascinated to see that.
Thrilled.
Now, if you were looking for it, the place to go would be the west of Ireland, but my family were living in the southeast, so I've never encountered it, but I would be thrilled if I walked into a wake and saw that happening.
Yeah, write in if you're a
Yeah,
please do.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Love to hear.
Let's talk about the wake then, because this is what fascinates me as someone who's grown up in England, and my experience of funerals are very much not this. We don't sit with the body for several days. We don't have it in the house.
Yeah.
So can you explain? Because I find this so moving as well as interesting. I think this is really important, and I'm sad that we don't have it here. But tell us about this.
Yeah, it's also exhausting. I mean, that's one of the other things to kind of to say. So the wake is becoming a shorter process in Ireland now, but in the 19th century into the early 20th century, it was over 2 nights. What you get now is that we sit around the coffin and you might be there for 2 days, but what used to happen is the corpse would be laid out maybe even in the bed. They'd be dressed in a suit or they could be in a shawl, depending on what time period you're looking at, or they could be laid out on a table and people would just gather around. So it's very much this like proximity to death, where you are surrounding this body. And then there are rituals that need to be observed. And for instance, I was with my granny when she died a few years back. I can't remember now, 5 or 6 years ago, I suppose it is. And I was in the room, and the other members of my family were in the room, and we were sitting with her. And as soon as she died, and this is in the 21st century, as soon as she died, my mum was like, went to the window and opened the window, because that's one of those things, you let the soul out. You don't trap the soul in the room at the instant of death. We didn't do this, but older traditions are the clocks all get stopped. Mirrors are all covered. So time starts to lose meaning. And that was very much around in the 20th century. I haven't experienced it. We don't do that now, but certainly up until the kind of 70s, 80s. Did open the window. But the family did open the windows. You would still see some places that mirrors get covered. So you'll put a black drape over the mirrors.
And why the mirror covering? Is that to sort of dissuade vanity in that moment because you're meant to be reflecting on something else? Is it something about the mirror as a portal? Thinking about letting the spirit out?
It's that. It's the mirror as a portal. It's not you're not allowing the soul to get trapped anywhere. So that's why the windows are open. The way you do the what is it, divining or the scrying, I think it is, isn't it? Where you look in the mirror and you bring forth souls or ghosts, whatever it might be. So it's not to trap them in there. So it's this kind of it's this quasi-magic element that's going on.
Quasi?
Well, yeah, exactly. And so it really, really persists. As I say, this was 5 or 6 years ago, and that window had to be opened. So one of the ones that I really like is don't ask me how this would happen, but I guess it would in the 19th century. If a hen flies over the corpse, that hen has to be killed instantly.
That's so specific.
But it is. Like, I mean, what are you going to do? Well, justice for the hens. But and again, it's this thing about I think my understanding of it is it's the transfer of soul. You do not want that soul jumping into that hen.
Oh, you don't want grandma walking around as a chicken.
No. The fox is going to kill her. So yeah, it's interesting to think about. There's something leaving you. We have to be really careful about where that something goes.
Yeah. Dan, you have Irish family, right? Have you ever been to an Irish wake?
I have not been to I've been to a bastardized modern Irish wake, which is very sad. But
in Ireland?
In Dublin, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think I feel I'm not the right person around the table to talk about Irish wake tradition. But I appreciated immediately the sense that everyone knew what to do, and I think we in England and the UK have lost our. And I see this with my Jewish friends. I see it with friends elsewhere in the world. everyone kind of goes, oh, there's been a death, and then everything kind of. Some people bring food, some people do this, some people open a bottle of something, and we all just go, oh, I don't know, it's capitalism as the markets shattered our ability to remember, because presumably we used to do things as a community.
You were talking earlier about that kind of formality that we're bound by in English culture, and I think we've lost the rehearsal of that. We don't have that in everyday life. Like, we don't know what to do necessarily as a society, but we're still clinging to it. And so when we go to an event like that, we're like, well, we have to be formal. Does anyone know what the rules are of this formality?
Yeah, we're in the worst of both worlds.
Yeah,
we've
exactly.
inherited a strange Edwardian formality.
Yeah, we're like, we mustn't show any emotion, but we don't know why.
We don't know what, because presumably that served its own purpose, and perhaps that did give strength. And But instead, we've now lost. We're between.
For me, the thing that is so alien in death culture over here is the time that you guys take to bury the dead. It feels almost cruel to me when I see it unfold, because you have weeks between the person dying and being,
it's strange.
buried or whatever.
It's a really strange time. And it's a kind of limbo time as well, right?
Yeah.
Where you're sort of
because you go back to work,
happen and
but then you have to take time off again, and life is moving, but it's not. And
so the 2 nights thing. So presumably this is the burial's part of it. So you go, what? It's 2 nights.
It's probably,
and then the burial happens,
and then so it used to be 2 nights of a wake, a funeral which would happen at like 11 o'clock on the day, and then a burial the following day. So it'd be like a 4-day event, but. And you're not doing anything during that time apart from your drinking was part of the culture more so than it is now, but certainly there is drink at funerals now. There was pipes passed around which would be given out over the body. I'm talking about quite a few pipes, corpse pipes I think they were called, and it was this was just part of the and when you take the pipe, you have to say Lord of Mercy, so you're like smoking for the dead person, for their soul.
Giving me flashbacks to like Catholic Church, peace be with you.
Yeah, very that. Yeah.
What did they die of? Oh, lung cancer.
Yeah. It's what they would have wanted. And so it is, but one of the things we're talking about drinking, one of the things that would have happened, and I have never experienced this, so this is going to be my first Irish outing, over the body would be drinking of, well, many things, but poitín specifically. Poitín. And it just so happens, not for Maddy today, I'm afraid.
I've sniffed it. That's as close as I'm getting, unfortunately.
But we're going to try some. This is actual alcohol. What time is it? We're recording this at 10:30 in the morning, just to let everybody know.
Anthony's had 4 shots of this.
I've heard,
a few rehearsals.
Smell it before we go.
Wowee.
It's very fruity. Right, pass me your glass.
What's the measure of this?
I'm going to do a shot measure, right?
Okay. I would say that's a pretty generous.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Tell you how many shots I'm doing in this day and age. Right, we're going to try it. And I have you tasted poitín before?
I have.
Have you actually?
Yeah, but
okay. Sláinte.
Oh, straight down the
Oh my God, it was a lot. It was a lot.
You just embarrassed me there. I was a sip. I took it as a sipping.
It was a lot.
Anthony's just slugged it. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this on the audio version.
Oh wow, that was a lot.
It's a bit vodka, isn't it? But it's and a bit fruitier.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what it is. I was like, try to regain some form of composure. Why did I drink the whole thing? Am I supposed to drink the whole thing?
And can I just say as well to everyone listening that we have, I think, 4 or 5 more episodes to go today.
Paint stripper is what that is. Anyway.
So that's taken over the body.
That's taken over the body, and it is, listen, this is a very safe and distilled version of this, but people are brewing this at home. It can be really, really strong.
Have you ever made your own alcohol?
Oh my God, no.
Is it potato based?
It can be. So barley originally, but then potato, anything starchy. Sometimes there was elements of fruit going in there, but it was the history of poitín in itself is so interesting because of all people, Charles II outlaws it in Ireland.
That's right.
And you would imagine he'd be like, bring on the poitín.
Get it over here, please.
He bans it because of it's so popular. He wants the tax from it, and it's not taxable, so he bans it. But as a result, it actually takes on this other life of its own, where people are going, we're holding on to this because they've told us we can't have it.
It becomes a symbol of defiance. That's interesting.
And yet, it's also interesting that sometimes we approach these subjects with the sort of reverence for this ancient tradition. Actually, tobacco relatively recently introduced, in the last 400 years. If it was potato-based poitín, again, post-Columbian food exchange. So actually, we'd be wrong to sort of approach this as we do Stonehenge or something. These traditions are alive; they're evolving throughout Irish history.
I think that's really interesting to say that they're alive and they're evolving, because I get a sense of that even now, that they're alive and that they're evolving. And it's interesting because the younger people are moving away from maybe some of the more like, for instance, one of the things that's so popular with my parents' generation in Ireland is RIP.ie. So if you haven't heard of this, it's essentially Facebook for the dead.
Oh my goodness.
So as soon as somebody dies, their profile goes up on RIP.ie. .ie is like our.co.uk or .com. And their picture is up there. As we were preparing for this, I got Freddie, our producer, to go on and look up my granny's profile on RIP.ie, because everybody goes on there.
Are these updated, or is this just like a notice board of like grannies now?
Yeah, can you get the user-generated content?
Yeah, so it's where the funeral is going to be. It's whether or not they're having the wake at the home or wherever it is. It's whether or not it's at the funeral home. But then you get to leave comments. So the people in the community or people who can't make it to the funeral,
It's
they
like
all leave.
modern keying,
well.
and people can put in the comments, well, this one time Anthony really wronged me.
Keying,
yeah,
And
it is.
it has. Oh yeah, good, well done. It has happened that there are moderators and things that had to be removed, and people have had to be removed if it's getting too much.
Okay,
But
I know what I'm doing when I get home. I'm
generally,
going to be looking at all the gossip on this. Yep.
But generally speaking, yeah. But younger people are kind of not doing that so much. But this element is very much still present. The wake element is still very much present. So that's not going. We haven't really embraced the funeral homeness thing in the same way that it happens. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely funeral home wakes and funerals, but we're still very much waking in the house and getting very drunk in the process, which has been going on since the 6th century or whatever it is. So it's an ancient tradition we stick to quite proudly.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so you've done the wake.
I have.
You're quite drunk.
Yeah.
For the 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Done the tobacco and all of that. We then need to take the coffin to the church.
We do.
For the funeral. Talk to me about funeral roads, because I find this fascinating, this idea of carrying the body. And I know in Ireland you're not meant to put the coffin down, right? Because this is very different in England. I used to live on the edge of the Yorkshire Dales, and there they've got corpse roads where they have corpse or coffin stones along the road, because it's such a vast place. Yeah. And you would, it's so remote, you'd have to walk potentially several miles to take farmer, whatever, from this valley to the church there, that you would need to put it down along the way. And they're all still in place, and you can... I think they're still used in some instances.
Yeah.
So, but this is not the case in Ireland, right? It's very, very, very bad to put the coffin down.
Yeah, you don't be putting the coffin down. Now, can I ask you a question before I answer any of this? Have you ever, either of you, carried a coffin?
No.
Okay. I don't know if it's way more usual in Ireland, but I've carried a few coffins at this point, and coffins are
Were you invited
heavy.
to? Or?
No, I just infiltrated the thing. No, they were both grandparents. And it's a very strange thing when you stop and think about it. You're joining somebody else's shoulder, and the coffin sits there.
It gives me so much anxiety, the idea of it slipping off.
Oh,
I
yeah.
couldn't.
No,
be doing
really,
it.
it is. It's very anxiety inducing. And some people are kind of, please don't make me do this. But there is this kind of pressure to carry your dead. So we still do this to a certain extent. So, for instance, when one of my grannies died, the church is not that far away, but she lives down a lane, and so up that driveway we carried her up until we were at the road. And then she got into the car, we put her into the car, and then she drove literally 2.5 minutes to the church. Like, we could have, we carried her the whole way. We carried that granny the whole way. The other one was driven. So
she a bit heavier.
She was further away. And so we there is this carrying that we still do. But traditionally now, this wouldn't happen anymore. Yes, you're right, Maddy, you can't leave the coffin down on grass, but you can leave it down if you put some kind of a sheet underneath it. But if you leave it on the grass, the grass becomes what's called hungry grass or corpse grass. But the actual translation from Irish is that it's the hungry man, actually, is how it translates.
Ooh, I don't like that.
And that grass then needs to be cleansed, and it needs to be...
Why? What will happen to
I'm
it?
not sure what the implication is, but
is that it will
ain't
become
good.
like a grave in itself?
I don't know. I really don't know. It doesn't make sense to a certain extent, but you're not supposed to have it, and you're not supposed to let your animals eat eat it. But it has to be dealt with, and it has to be kind of purified. So you can put holy water on it is one way to do it. There are other ways as well. So you're not supposed to have it down. And also, by the way, there's another, it's referred to as the Fargurtha. That's the hungry man or the famished man or whatever. And you have to counter this, you have to eat something over that piece of grass or put holy water on it. So like you could eat.
Now I will say, this is a
some
lot of
brack.
faff.
Oh yeah, I mean I've never seen a coffin put down though.
Really?
Never
seen
yeah.
that.
No,
Oh, wow, okay.
I've never seen that happen.
I suppose I haven't either. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
It's sort of odd to just leave it. I mean, it's different in a rural culture. I've only ever seen them back out the car into the old.
It's not far to go.
And how do you do it over here in terms of like getting out of the car up to the front of the church? How is that coffin transported?
Carried.
Carried. So it's the same. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But often it is the funerary company who does it. It's not always. Sometimes it's
that's
family
true.
who carry it. It depends, I suppose, on the situation. Also, you need family members who are all roughly the same height as well to do it. Otherwise, that's going to be an issue.
And in Ireland, women often don't carry the coffin, but more and more they're doing it now. But because of that, they put all different things. A woman should be carrying the coffin, but actually it's about height. It's a practicality where suddenly you're like this. But also, we lower the coffin into the ground ourselves. Yeah. So like I lowered my granny into the ground.
Again, the anxiety that is giving me.
I nearly went in after her. I was like, not in a dramatic way, just and I was like, oh my God, this is heavy. and you have the things in your hands that you're lowering down into the ground. Yeah. So it is, and it does feel like a lot of responsibility, but everyone's just doing it. And you have the undertaker beside you going, stand back up, straight. You need to ground yourself a little bit more. So he is directing this because he's used to it. This is a really skilled professional. Just to bring this up as well, you are not allowed, say for instance, you were on your way to the church. And by the way, some of these corpse roads are incredible. There's one in Kilkenny that we walk the dogs on when we're home. They're beautiful. They are serene. They are in the countryside. There is a little route through. It's like a little path, but they're often enclosed with trees. So it's really, really stunning. But you're not allowed to part the funeral party. So you have to stay together because if you do, you're going to bring on another death in the parish. So you have to stay together. Why you'd be parting? I don't know. I don't know where that group of people are going.
Well, because someone's seen the comments on the
RIP Facebook. Yeah. So it's and I know we're here and we're talking about it in quite a light way, and there is an element of I suppose now fun to it. But actually, think about what this is doing to community cohesion, to honouring the dead, to helping the living deal with grief, to have that process through which we have to hit these markers, and we're doing it. It's not necessarily the undertaker. And by the way, up until relatively recently, people weren't even embalmed. And this goes for, in the 20th century, there are some horrendous stories that I've heard. And I know a family that this happened to where the corpse started, it was a particularly hot day and things got unpleasant and people had to leave the house because, and that's in my lifetime. So the sanitization of death, though, is coming into Ireland, but we still do the wake. My granny had a marquee during her wake. That's how many people were there because she has a family of 11. So there was so many people coming from all over the country and all over the world, actually, that we needed to add on. It was like a wedding, except, less dancing. But not no dancing. There was some dancing.
Did you dance?
I didn't dance, no.
Of course not.
Other people did, yeah.
You're happy to carry the coffin, not happy to dance.
And I celebrate that.
Yeah. Listen, it really does help because by the end of it, you're actually exhausted and you're ready for the person to go in the ground because you're a bit like, I need to sleep. Yeah. I need to have time to myself. I've been surrounded by 1,400 people for the last however many days. I need to withdraw now and I need to deal with that grief in another way. In some ways, it kind of delays grief a little bit because you have a job to do over the course of those few days. But at the same time, you are surrounded by community. It is not a lonesome or a lonely activity. It is the time when actually you're held up and you're bound together by this thing that the community comes together for. So in many ways, it's, again, the younger generation probably kind of go, oh God, we have to go to a wake. This is cringe. But actually, what it's doing in terms of community formation,
I like it.
It's important. There's a lot to be said for it. Yeah.
Nothing differently when they're the dead ones.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah, they'll expect it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Our parents' generation. So our grandparents' generation, the wakes are huge. Like, again, my granny had stadium lighting during her wake. That we needed to have stadium lighting and overflow car parks. But for my parents' generation, I think you will see that to come down a little bit, because I just don't think we're going to do that in the same way. It's probably going to filter down a little bit, and also there's fewer families
fewer
with
kids,
with 11 people. So it's a strange thing, but I kind of love it.
It's wondrous.
And it's very dramatic. And I love that about Ireland. Ireland's very dramatic. Like, we do a good line in drama. So yeah, I like it.
Before we go,
yes,
I want to hear one last superstition from the wake, and I think you have a little bit of a story to tell us here.
I do. Am I going to do my Shanachie accent for this? Okay, let's see.
We would expect nothing less.
Oh God, I've been drinking now, and this is what's going to happen. Okay. I'm about to tell you a little story, a little scale, and it is death related. And there is a recurring noise, and nobody actually definitely knows the answer to this, but I'd like you to tell me what you think the noise in this little story is. So it goes like this. One night, a man named James O'Donnell was coming home from a wake at the hour of 9 o'clock. He often heard his father and mother say that it was not right to come from a wake by yourself. But as he was a courageous man, he said he would go alone. He left the wake house by himself and went up through a field, making for his own house, whistling away. When he was just a few fields from his house, he heard great hammering beside him. The night was dark, and that made his fear worse. The hammering continued, loud in his ear. When he was one field away from his house, he called out to his own dog. But when the dog came, it saw something that the man did not see, and put its tail between its two legs and ran up home. The hammering kept going until he reached his own door and closed it. Then it stopped. He went straight to his bed and did not leave it alive. Dan and Maddy, what was that hammering?
Time to play.
Yeah.
Dan, any guesses?
I think it was he drank a lot.
Yeah.
And he was staggering up a hill, and you can hear your heartbeat in your ears. And he had a massive cerebral hemorrhage.
Oh, wow.
From
oh my God.
specific.
Dan's going science with this.
Yeah, I'm afraid so, guys. From boozing and climbing up a hill in the middle of the night.
Yeah, listen, I'm happy to accept a medical explanation for this. Maddy?
Oh, 100% supernatural, obviously. Come on.
Obviously, yeah, go on.
Yeah,
what is it?
No, I mean, he's walking, what is he? He's walking through fields. Is it just the wind in the trees, something like that? Sticks knocking together?
I mean, I'm asking you.
Is it his own boots?
There is no actual answer, but I'll tell you what I think it is from my interpretation of this. I think he's hearing the nails in his own coffin.
Oh.
That's
nice.
what I think he's hearing.
Okay, that makes a lot of
so
sense.
So he's here. He's foretelling his own death, because remember I said we don't pair off. Yeah, we have to stay. It's this Irish goodbye thing. Apparently, don't do that. You might. And I love an Irish goodbye where I just disappear. But if you're at a wake, don't do it.
You are the king of an Irish goodbye.
Yeah. Or like, bye guys, I'm not even going to tell you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's hearing the nails in his own coffin that night. And actually, if you think about it, there is often times in the past where the families would make the coffins themselves. So it's like almost as you near your own house, he's hearing what potentially is coming around the corner, because this is an old story. This isn't modern. So yes, so that's what I hear it as, the nails in his coffin.
Perfect.
I think you're probably right.
Lovely. Well, if you've enjoyed this episode, then you can leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Dan, thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. That was epic.
It really was. And nice to revisit some Irish history after last year's success with Irish. What do we do? The Irish origins of Halloween.
Halloween, yeah, that was it.
Yeah,
and now
fantastic.
I've seen that everywhere now, by the way. We started a trend.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if people now, it's just become a common assumption that it all starts in Ireland.
Yeah.
And it started here.
Yeah.
We did. We began that. You can get in touch with us if you want to suggest episodes, Irish related or otherwise, at afterdark@historyhit.com. See you next time.
Thanks so much to Anthony and Maddy. I love it when we do these crossover shows. Make sure you go and check out their channel, After Dark, for more of the darker side of history. And if you enjoyed this History Hit Universe collab, let us know in the comments. We can give you a little bit more of it. And don't forget to hit subscribe on this channel too. See you next time.